and I will begin with a few introductory comments. As a courtesy to everyone here tonight, please make sure that all cell phones have been silenced. Please note that tonight's Planning Commission meeting will be rebroadcast via CityLink and posted on the www.minnehahacounty.gov site for viewing by the general public. Any final action taken on the conditional use permit applications tonight will take effect 5 working days following this meeting, unless a written appeal of the Planning Commission's decision is filed in the Planning Office by Tuesday, September 3rd at 5 p.m. In the event of an appeal, the decision will be referred to the County Commission for a hearing on Tuesday, September 17th at or after 9 a.m. The affected parties will be notified of the meeting date, and meetings of the County Commission are held in this same room. Any action taking on the rezoning application during the public hearing tonight is a recommendation that will be forwarded to the County Commission for another public hearing on Tuesday, September 24th at or after 9 a.m. Meetings of the County Commission are held in this same room. First on the agenda is public input. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on an item that is not on the agenda? At this time, the Planning Commission will consider the consent agenda items on the consent agenda are perceived to be non-controversial and meet all of the requirements of the codes and regulations. The consent agenda will be acted on in one motion with no public hearing on the items unless a member of the public, the commission, or staff requests the item be removed from the consent agenda. The minutes from the July 22nd, 2024 meeting are included in the consent agenda. Next, I'll read each item on the consent agenda and ask if there are any issues or comments from the Planning Commission or the audience. If any member of the Planning Commission or the audience would like to be heard on the item, please raise your hand, and the item will be removed to the regular agenda to allow you to address the Commission later in the meeting. Any items remaining on the consent agenda will be approved by the Planning Commission with the conditions recommended by staff. Item number 1 is the approval of the minutes of the July 22nd, 2024 meeting. Item number 2 is conditional use permit 24-38 to expand the storage unit facility on the property legally described as Tract 1 and 2, Masts Addition, the Northeast Quarter, Section 27, Township 102 North, Range 48 West. That is in Brandon Township. Petitioner is Philip Mast. He is also the property owner, located at 1205 East Hemlock Boulevard. Is there anyone from the audience or the commission wish to be heard on this item? Sir, did you raise your hand? Okay. Item number 3, conditional use permit 24-40 to amend CUP 13-40 to expand the existing gas station on the property legally described as Tract 1, Obens Addition, West Half, Northeast Quarter, Section 1, Township 103 North, Range 50 West. That is in Lyons Township. Petitioner is Richard Blasey. Property owner is Holiday Station Stores, LLC. Location 47155 250th Street. Anyone from the commission or the audience wishes to be heard on this item? Item number 4, conditional use permit 24-41 to make 3 building eligibilities available in the southeast quarter, the southwest quarter, all within the southwest quarter. There is an exception of H-1 and except Holtz Addition, end of exception. Section 2, Township 104 North, Range 48 West. That is in Logan Township. Petitioner and property owner is Kevin Brown, located approximately 6 miles east of Del Rapids. Anyone from the commission or the audience wishes to be heard on this item?
He's the petitioner.
He's just the petitioner? Okay. Anyone else care to address this item in the audience? Okay, those are the items on the consent agenda. Commissioners?
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Second that.
I have a motion and second to approve the items on the consent agenda. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. If your item has been approved, you're free to go. Move on to the regular agenda. Item number 5, rezoning 24-01 to rezone from the R-1 residential district to the C commercial district. The property legally described as Lot 2, Haddle Edition, in the town of Lyons, Township 103 North, Range 50 West, Lyons Township. Petitioner is Mike Hanton. Property owner is Dennis Haddle, located 327 First Street.
Good
Kevin?
evening. I am Kevin Hookman from the County Planning Department. This is a continued item. The Planning Commission first heard this item on May 20th of 2024, where several neighbors presented concerns about the condition of the property. After that, some discussion, the Planning Commission decided to defer action on a vote of 5-0 to tonight's meeting to allow some time to see improvement to the property. Staff did visit the property again on August 5th, and at that time, I did not see any apparent work on the site. I'll kind of run through some of those photos. And I guess that's kind of where I'll leave the staff report. I left the staff report the same as before, and because the items kind of being presented here would be the change of what was desired from the last meeting to now. So here's the site located in Lyons. It's the old school building in Lyons. So I put these in kind of similar photos, one right after another. So here would be an April picture view, and then today's picture view of a similar area in August, on August 5th, I should say. There's April and kind of the west side of the lot. And here would be August. There's April, August. And then I did throw a picture in of the road. Since over the summer, I did receive concerns about the road, being that it's it's not a maintained road and it's very narrow. So if it was to turn into a commercial property, it needs to be built into a more substantial gravel road. And that's where the PowerPoint ends here, so I'll probably bring it back up to the main location map, and I am here for any questions.
Any questions for him? He's not at this time. Is the petitioner here? Step forward. State your name and address, sir.
Mike Anton, 4104 South Enfield Avenue, Sioux Falls. Does this work?
Yeah.
Give you an idea why no work's been done to the property. The purchaser's not gonna follow through with buying the property if it doesn't get rezoned. So he's done maintaining it unless it gets rezoned, and you guys can deal with the current property owner. The nuisance vehicles are licensed, have been, not sure how that's a nuisance. Things are maintained on an asphalt parking lot. also nuisances. If building products are nuisances, town hall, volunteer fire department has same things. Johnson's has unlicensed trailers. Rosenbauer, there's shit everywhere. More piles of stuff, and Steve's unlicensed bus. Probably can't see, but there's vehicles parked in trees on the side of the road. People have stuff in their driveway. More stuff. That truck there has been sitting there for 4 months, unlicensed, probably doesn't run. Get the idea there. They say that the road's been vacated or turned into minimum maintenance. That also doesn't meet state law, and according to the most recent road maps given to the county, they're still collecting tax dollars as a maintained road. So, I think I've said enough.
Okay, anyone have any questions for him? Joe?
So I think what's before us is a question of whether to rezone from R1 residential to commercial. Can you give us a sense of the commercial purpose that will be, I take it this is within a transaction, so it's a new owner's vision of that commercial purpose, but can you, to the best of your ability, give us the commercial vision?
It is going to be a used car lot, same as, I guess, a used car lot versus a fire truck manufacturing plant, but sells about 5-10 cars a year. Nothing crazy. Some antique stuff and some oldest, probably 15-year-old cars that would otherwise end up in the landfill, junkyard. Fixes them up, puts them back on the road. Affordable cars for people. So,
Anyone else have any questions for him? Thank you.
thank you.
Okay. Anyone from the audience care to address this item? Please state your name and address, and you have 5 minutes.
Deb Bundy, 302 First Street, Lyons. We are the farm just to the north of the property. Staff update said no apparent work had happened since the May meeting. I would add that in an effort to control thistles on our property, we sprayed our ditch as well as outside of the trees along the path that goes to the driveway. The property itself was overrun by thistles, and we did call the highway department. They said they would call the owner, express to them that they needed to spray. I don't know if that happened or not, but it never was sprayed. Weeds continued to grow, bloom, and mature and spread weed seed. From my time serving on the Planning Commission and working on the comprehensive plan, I understand that the purpose of that plan is to provide direction for decision-making. In looking at the current comprehensive plan, I found that location of commercial uses should be at interstate highway interchanges and high-traffic intersections to support highway users. This site is not at any type of intersection and does not support highway users with no maintained road. Another one was to encourage a pattern of development in transition areas that can be integrated in municipal planning areas without need for costly and inefficient public infrastructure expenditures. Allowing this to be zoned commercial, I assume that would require Lyons Township to expand the road maintenance, widen it, snow removal, etc. Staff also noted in the report that the property owners should be aware of the expectation for the site to continue to make improvements if the rezoning request is approved. They added that a conditional use permit would be required for vehicle repair and car sales, which would allow them to add conditions. If the landowner has disregarded requests to clean up the site previously, I wouldn't think that rezoning would change anything. Rewarding the applicant by approving this request now so that additional conditions can later be put on just seems to escalate the existing problem. I wonder about enforcement of conditions, enforcement of requests. You know, the fact, and then I also wonder about permitted things on commercial properties. So yes, if they're gonna sell cars or they're going to do anything like that, I understand they need a conditional use permit, but there are permitted conditional uses that if you grant the rezoning, they would be allowed to do without getting any kind of conditional use permit. And then, I don't know if hands would be tied. So with the applicant not really knowing what the use is, it said that the son was going to be purchasing it, I understand. But that hasn't been made clear and really wouldn't make any difference. It's the applicant asking for the rezoning. So you're not really positive what's going to end up happening with it. Thank you.
Anyone else care to address this item? Please step forward. State your name and address.
Harold Boer, Lyons, South Dakota. And I've been a resident of Lyons for many years. I think but quite a few of you know me. And I oppose this rezoning because the applicant obviously has not made any kind of a good faith effort to clean it up or become a good community citizen, community supporter. Lyons is really a pretty well-kept, clean, neat town. We'd like to keep it that way. We have volunteers that maintain the park. With volunteers refurbed and rebuilt the whole park and built the shelter house in it. And they mow it, they take care of it. Volunteer fire department. We really take care of Lyons. It's a nice, neat, clean town. We'd like to keep it that way. And really, outlying villages and towns are real easy to become a dumping ground for used cars and junk and that kind of stuff because there's very little local control. And we just don't want to see that happen to Lyons. We're close to Sioux Falls. And I seen on the application and the report that he thought they would use both buildings for sales and offices. Neither of those buildings is any kind of a condition where they can economically be rebuilt. The garage itself is falling down. I mean, I know some of you have probably seen it. The school itself has been vacant for close to 50 years, well over 40 years anyway. It's been vandalized. My memory goes back about 50 years, so, but I'm pretty close. The school itself today would not have a working sewer system. The original, or not the original, but the last drain field was built west of the street on the school football field. And that property's been long sold from the school. It's no longer owned by the current owner. So there is no drain field to the current building, to the current sewer system. It was a septic system back then. So to be able to use anything, you'd have to put in a sewer system. I mean, it just economically, for what they want to do and the condition of the buildings, it just isn't there. And we're just really concerned that there'd be some used cars and junk cars come in, and he may sell some pieces of it, but they're not going to use either of those buildings for offices. Thank you.
Anyone else care to address this item? Okay, I guess I'm going to close the floor. Commissioners?
Madam Chair,
Ryan?
I think back in May, I think we deferred this because we wanted to see some improvements made to the property, some things cleaned up. you know, I mean, it's pretty simple to go in there and at least take care of some trees and if you really wanted this property to move, so I don't see no solid plan with the new business coming in either, so I'd be against this tonight.
Anyone else?
I'd make a motion to deny it.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to deny the rezoning of 24-01. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the denial?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Any old business? Okay. New business. Guess that's Kevin, maybe.
So under new business, we have the presentation of the 2035 Envision Comprehensive Plan. And you received the final two chapters, which was the land use and the implementation, I believe, chapters. So we have a short presentation, and then following the presentation, we can have some discussion, and if you have any questions for staff. Following that, I'd like to go over a schedule of what we are anticipating for public open houses. We've been working on that, and I wanted to give you the schedule. And then secondly, after that, just brief information, a little bit of discussion on whether we want to keep on calling it Envision 2035, or if we want to call it Envision 2045 to imply it's now good for another 10 years, but that's just to put that on your brain for right now. But I'll turn it over to Kevin and Mason, and they can give you the update on the last two chapters.
All right, so the last two chapters it will be presented here there's all the chapters of the plan, and we're working on the future land use plan and then the implementation part of the plan. I'll cover kind of the highlights of the chapters here. The future land use plan has these subsections within it. The introduction, which has the map, agricultural production area, transition area, rural service areas, and then planning corridors. And those are all elements of that map as we move forward to know kind of what is expected in those classifications on the map. So this is the current, so this is the proposed kind of land use map. It's a little bit different, and I'll go over some of those differences in a little bit. But this is the format of the land use map, where you have a transition area boundary in that kind of yellow color there. We have the rural service areas between the large rural service areas with the pink and the red, and then the smaller ones with just red squares located on the map. And then future kind of corridor plan areas. So, oops, wrong way. In the typical agricultural area, you're going to see agricultural production. This has largely been kept the same as what the previous plan stated and the typical uses you'd see in that. In the transition area, that's where kind of we see a little bit more change from the previous comprehensive plan, primarily the new and existing rural residential developments that meet residential development criteria. And that criteria was earlier in the plan that we went through the needing to have the road districts, the sanitary sewer, lot size requirements, sort of thing that we went over earlier. But that transition area would be the best place to put these rural developments. And then going back to the map, so this is the proposed map, and staff just did a few minor changes to the map over the last one 10 years ago. And I pointed the arrows here, kind of where the changes were. I thought I had the original map put in here too, but I guess I don't. So basically this line was moved out, this line was moved up a little bit, and then there's a little bit of line push around Baltic here. those are kind of the conservative outlooks on where the growth has been happening and where it should grow in the future. And I would like to kind of propose the question to you guys is, with the new kind of things require, or the new allowing residential uses in the transition area, if that transition area boundary could be expanded, if you wanted to expand it more, because one of the things that we'll run into that wasn't necessarily stated in the plan, but it's something to keep in mind, that the growth boundary for Sioux Falls, that joint jurisdictional area, expands into a lot of this yellow. And any code changes, they would have to kind of work with that as well. And there could be kind of two areas of growth changes where you have one in the county and one in the growth area around Sioux Falls. So just kind of throwing that out as an idea to keep in mind.
Oh, can I just ask you one quick question? Going back to the joint jurisdiction with Sioux Falls, how does that keep growing out every year? Do they keep expanding that every year then, or how do they determine that?
No, they have requested, I guess in the 10 years that I've been here, they've only requested to expand it out once. I think that they kind of expand that boundary as well, where we have our comprehensive plan. They do updates every 5 years or so. And then with their updates and their serviceable areas, they'll expand that growth boundary as well.
Kevin, isn't it true they've tried to annex certain areas, but the areas don't want to be annexed? The citywide?
I guess I think there are areas that they are looking that would be beneficial for the city to have annexed, but I don't know when the last time they've tried to annex somebody that didn't want to be annexed into the city.
Split Rock Heights was one of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the final area, the plan would be the rural service areas. Again, that's going to be the larger area on that map where you have, it's kind of the default of the white area outside of the transition area on the map. And that's where we're going to try to support our agricultural businesses and limit kind of the growth of other land uses such as industrial, limit single-family growth in those areas. And then the development corridors, I guess 10 years ago, development corridors were kind of topic of mind because it was more close to the Red Rock corridor. Now we've used that Red Rock corridor over the years and seen kind of how it's been being implemented and how it has changed things. There are ways, I think, that corridor studies would be beneficial. But it also is, in some respects, having lots of areas that are special to the county of this corridor can also make the ordinance complicated. So I think that the typical, each development corridor would have to take on its own flavor of what planning process would be for those corridors. And what ultimately comes of it, if there is any ordinance amendment specific, or if it's just more along the lines of land use planning, which would be probably more appropriate for going forward with development corridors. Okay, here's where I have the old map. Sorry, I got kind of ahead of myself in that transition area. So here's the existing adopted future land use map up on the screen. And then the proposed future land use map, you'll see it doesn't expand out a lot, maybe 3 miles out this way and just a little bit up this way. And yeah, so that this would be the topic of kind of discussion going forward from here. And I think that's kind of finalizes the future land use section of the ordinance. So I guess maybe we can leave it at that here before we move forward. Any questions?
Yes, Kevin, I got to ask you some questions here. What's your definition of transition?
So with the transition area, it's going to go back to the typical uses that you'd see in that transition area. So the comprehensive plan currently has it as that you keep it preserved for future urban expansion. And if we go through this rural residential criteria, that will also, if it goes through with those criterias of the easy hookups to sanitary sewer, the smaller lot sizes, that sort of thing, that'd be one more way to transition from a rural to an urban area because it's already kind of preset to the urban style.
Okay, I kind of know the county fairly well, but South Brent, Split Rock Township. Okay, you have straight south of Brandon, you have, I don't know, maybe I'm interpreting it wrong, but how can a floodplain area be in the transition area? And also, we have a sizable rock quarry. How is that going to make things expand in the future or the transition area?
Sure. I guess as far as floodplain, there's going to be floodplain in a lot of places. So floodplain will kind of affect itself. There are rules that if there is development in a floodplain, that it would have to follow the floodplain ordinance. And that actually kind of skips into our next implementation portion of the ordinance or the comprehensive plan. So if there was a proposal for floodplain development, they would have to go through a process of showing how they can develop it safely without affecting neighbors, one, and without affecting their own property that they're developing. So that can be part of the transition area. As far as this particular quarry specific, that is already also part of the Red Rock Corridor Plan, so that has been kind of incorporated into that second layer of planning. And at this time, I don't think there's any updates that will be needed for that specific corridor, but we already approved more quarry ability in that area, so anybody moving in will know that there is an active quarry there and it's going to continue to grow.
Okay, I got one other question. Like right where our farm is, there are, say, 1.5 miles out to the southeast, there are any potential livestock expansions going to be permitted? Because there, right now, in that corner of the township, there's a lot of livestock right there, and fairly much younger than I am, family members. Are they going to be having their hands tied if they want to do something to expand? Because that's not right. We have to allow the young generation, just because they're there and they need the opportunity.
Sure.
And so that's my biggest concern right now with, that section to the southeast there in the corner. So there, I gave my 2 cents.
Madam Chair, I would wonder about, as we look at future land use, I'm very interested in the regional wastewater that is proposed to come into Hartford. And does that change anything, the outlook on this, if we're talking about to envision 2045 or 2050? Particularly, I guess I could just summarize it by saying Tri-Valley School District. Is it the next Harrisburg or T school district? Will we see a demand for residential and just the growth of a school system? Because I think that school is about halfway between Hartford and Colton, kind of an if you build it, they will come theory of they've kind of built a school out in the middle of nowhere, but will there be some demand as that school district grows? So just, I guess I can just throw that out there broadly to you and your team, Kevin, of just a new does that explicitly need to be shown on this map in some concrete way? But if we know that there's going to be sewerability, does that just change our calculations? And we have basically already accounted for that by saying we're open to some residential growth if it meets all these criteria. And if there's more sewer, then there might be more places that meet that criteria.
I guess I would, maybe Scott knows a little bit too. I was under the impression that the regional part of the sewer system was largely not going to happen because of communities not wanting to hook in and making it so that way if they were going to run something, it wouldn't necessarily, they have to run it to a place. They can't just run it out into the non like city, so that they have to have a lot of customers, I guess, in order to justify the hooking up. I guess if there was regional sewer, we could always revise the plan. So if the sewer being here, and I think their main goal was to try to connect up to Colton.
Okay.
That would be a place where, okay, maybe we move that transition area, kind of bulge it out or have a line sort of thing. But as far as I'm aware, I don't think the regional sewer is happening as a regional thing. It's just going to be trying to use it as a way to grow Hartford.
Okay. And yeah, I think that's been a moving target, and maybe it's difficult to do a 20-year comprehensive plan while they're in the middle of that project that has some uncertainty to it at best. But just wanted to raise that up, and that Tri-Valley School District area is just kind of interesting to me. But yeah, I concur that I don't think we need to necessarily change anything on this version of it until we have hard information otherwise. So that's all I had. Thank you.
All right. So then in the implementation chapter is kind of an interesting chapter in the comprehensive plan. It covers a lot of the things that are outside of the planning department, and kind of as a broad overview of what these other things do in the county and kind of where we should lead going forward. So here's the sub-chapters in the implementation. Planning ordinances, geographic information systems, intergovernmental cooperation, public facilities and services, and then planning corridors. So under the planning ordinances, that's more or less a rewrite of how this section of the comp plan was written before. And before they just covered the zoning ordinance, but as we all know, the Planning and Zoning Department takes care of many ordinances throughout the county, and they all kind of intermingle. And just knowing for implementation that building codes update every 3 years, and we need to try to keep on top of that to incorporate new building styles and new parts of the code, new safety concerns that may need to be adjusted from year to year. And we have been adopting those approximately every 3 years, usually a little bit behind the curve, so that way we have a little more time to work with the city of Sioux Falls on adoption on what parts that may not want to be incorporated into the ordinance. But that's one place where the implementation happens. Floodplain management, FEMA comes out with mapping, and that's kind of the base of the floodplain management. So FEMA comes out with these maps and says, here's where the risk is located. And now your ordinance has to have certain qualifications in the ordinance that has to cover the risk or reduce the risk of any development in that floodplain. So as FEMA updates maps, our ordinance kind of updates and changes with that, and keeping updated with that also helps with changing, again, like processes and things in the ordinance. One of the changes since our last ordinance update would be how accessory buildings are treated in floodplains. That is not actually part of our ordinance, and that's one thing that when our next update comes along, we're gonna plan on incorporating those accessory building changes into the ordinance sort of thing. And then we have implementation of public nuisance solid waste ordinances. Our subdivision ordinances show how and when properties can be subdivided, important part of planning. And then zoning updated as needed. I don't foresee that our zoning ordinance needs to be completely amended, completely rehauled with this comprehensive plan update, but of course, we have discussed some of the updates we can do primarily with housing and like accessory dwelling units sort of thing that'll have to be updated and changed as we go forward. And then some other highlights of that chapter. So the school enrollment, planning doesn't necessarily have direct impact on school and how they do their thing. But having this idea of where schools are and how they expand is always a good idea to keep in mind for any sort of future growth of a community. And you'll see I got a little star here on these, which are schools that have area within the county, but the school itself is located outside of the county. That's what these stars are. But these are all the school districts that are located within the county and the enrollment of those school districts. And you'll see that generally speaking, the enrollment is going up with just a couple of exceptions where it's kind of up and down or somewhere near there, such as Garrettson has been a little bit flat, I'll say, or stable. But generally speaking, they've been going up. And then we got to the moving forward. So where do we go now? We kind of covered through the plan. We have open houses that are scheduled. I did not put the dates on. I forgot to put those on. Okay. So we want to do open houses in Brandon, Del Rapids, and Hartford. And then we're going to hope to try to present this in front of the Towns and Townships Association. And then with that, maybe Scott can speak to the dates and kind of process.
So we've already started reaching out to the different entities. We're looking at November 7th in Del Rapids, and then November 14th was Brandon, and then November 21st would be Hartford, and those are all Thursday nights. And that gives us plenty of time to get the word out to the various entities. We also were mindful that people are still harvesting crops, and we want to make sure that if you have ag-related people that they can attend. And so we're hopeful by the 7th of November, most people will be done with their farm work. So that's, there's not a big window there. We wanted to sort of wrap it up before Thanksgiving. We would finish it up the 1 week before Thanksgiving, which is the 28th. So I think the timing is really good. Also, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, what I'd like to do is have a full copy of the revisions of the revised comp plan at your next meeting, September. And then that'll give you more time to review it. And if you feel comfortable with it as it is, I would ask that you would authorize us to advertise for a hearing at the November meeting. So the way the timing falls, we could have all three of our public hearings in November and then have our, I believe that meeting, the Planning Commission meeting in November is, let me look here quick, the 25th. So we would finish up with our 3 meetings in November, the public hearings, and we could then have a formal hearing in front of you and relay what we learned at our public open houses and give you time to think about it. You could take action on it in November if you wanted to. Of course, you don't have a meeting in December. If you didn't take action, you would continue it to January. So I just want to make sure you have plenty of time to digest it all, review it, but yet keep the process moving along. And we will be working on getting the word out. I anticipate reaching out to some of the smaller papers. Hopefully we can get some news stories and just, sending out information to townships and school districts and just getting the word out. So I'll also be going in front of the county commission under items from public, starting in October, and letting, just reminding the public that we're having these open houses, put flyers out. We're working with IT to create a portal. So when we are at our public meetings, you will be able to scan a QR code, hopefully, put comments. So that, we'll put that on our website. IT will create a banner that says the 2035 update or 2045 comp plan, whatever we're gonna call it. So, and we'll have the entire comp plan, we plan on having a presentation at our open houses. We would have that presentation also available on our website, so you could watch the presentation and still make comments. So we're trying to make it available digitally to people online as well, if they can't attend the meetings or don't want to, but would like to stay informed. So we're trying to reach out in multiple different ways. If you have good ideas, let me know now or let us know, and we can try to incorporate those. If you know of specific target groups that you feel would be receptive to wanting to attend or be aware of what's going on. I will tell you, last week I attended a tour of Lincoln County with Sioux Metro Growth Alliance. I sat with the mayors of Del Rapids and Hartford. They don't like the idea of us allowing a residential development to occur. They feel that we're pulling it away from the city. So I'm assuming we'll get comments from them at these meetings that, I said, well, show up at the meeting, at the public open houses, let us know. And there'll be opportunities to present your thoughts too in front of the planning commission and county commission. So with that, then the last thing I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about was if we should continue to call this the Envision 2035, if you want to call it the revised 2035 comp plan, or if you want to push it out to 2045, any thoughts? The Envision 2045 plan? So, because, 2035 is really only 10 years away, so.
I guess, Madam Chair, if I'll just throw it out
Go
there.
ahead, Mike.
There always has to be some differentiator, I guess, in my mind of, what was and I guess what's moving forward. All right, so there's a kind of a line in the sand, so to speak. And it's in my mind somewhat just naming nomenclature, but I guess for that side, I guess I would propose 2045 and, not that it can't be amended between now and then, but at least that's a starting point.
So then, I just think it's gonna, we need to sort of hammer down the title, so we can start calling it the 2045 Envision Plan.
Yep.
And then we have the old 2035 plan that you can go back and look at. So if no one has any real heartburn over that, I think we're gonna start calling it the 2045 comp plan or Envision 2045. So it all sort of implies it's good until 2045. So, not that, just like we're doing right now, in 10 years, we may want to revisit this. So, and update it again, but anyway. So, with that, I don't have anything else, other than just letting you know where we're going with this. I did give a presentation on August 5th, a briefing to the county commission, and Bonnie was there, because our county commission wanted to know where we were in the process, and so I gave them sort of the rundown, told them we'd be finishing up our last 2 chapters at this meeting, and then we're gonna move on to public open houses, so.
Scott, did you have a date for the Townsend Township?
I think it's in November, it's, I have it.
Third Monday?
Yeah, I think it's the third Monday, which I think is the 18th.
Where is it? Is it here?
It's gonna be at the county highway department,
Oh,
the new building, so, I think it's the 18th of November, but we'll get on the agenda and, it probably will be just a quick briefing that we have meetings get long The meetings get long, and I've been to a couple of them, and they just get long, and no one wants to be there all night long. So I'll probably just make a quick, show them the QR code, have a couple copies for people to look at. I'll hang around for any questions and go from there.
Any other public meetings that you're going to have in Brandon, Del Rapids, and Hartford? Have you already set up where they're going to be?
Well, yes and no. Kevin's been working with Teresa Seidel in Hartford to look. I do have a location for the Del Rapids meeting. I've been working on Del Rapids. Kevin's working with Hartford, and Mason's working in the Brandon area. So we're trying to find the locations.
Sure.
The Del Rapids location is going to be in their new city hall. They have like a meeting room there. It's the old Wells Fargo Bank building. Is their new city hall. So it's on Main Street. There's parking behind it. It's very nice, I hear. So that's where we're having the Del Rapids meeting. And
Hartford, I think they've tentatively set it in the city hall as well for Hartford, so that'll work for them, so.
Sioux Valley Energy was supposed to host it, but they don't host public meetings anymore, so I'm working with Brandon to see if we can use one of their buildings, their city hall as well, if we use all three city halls, but we'll see what happens with that one. I haven't gotten an answer back yet.
yeah,
Okay. Anything else?
no, that's all.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion,
Oh, thank you. Well, you're welcome.
entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
The exact same.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, everyone.
So the good news is there'll be plenty of opportunities for you all to attend public